Of all of the medieval wine villages in France, for me, by far the most picturesque is Saint-Emilion, with its cobblestone streets, little cafes and bars and outstanding restaurants, not to mention the cathedral. Well, this really is the hub of winemaking on the right bank. It was designated in 1999 a World Heritage Site. Vineyards were cultivated here long before the Medoc was even planted, and here on the outskirts of the village you find some of the most famous names in wine, like Ozone, Angelus and Pavie. We're standing here in the monastery in the heart of the medieval village of Saint-Emilion. This was founded in the 8th century, which gives you an idea of just how long the history of this winemaking region dates back. It's called the right bank because it lies just on the right-hand side of the river Dordogne. And the vineyards here, this amazing patchwork, like a quilt almost, comprises over 14,000 acres and hundreds of chateaux. The principal grape varieties differ here compared to in the Medoc, which is of course mainly Cabernet Sauvignon. Here you see a high proportion of Merlot, usually about 65 to 70%, and that produces these opulent, fleshy, plump, more full-bodied wines that are easier to drink in their youth. And that's a big reason for the success of Saint-Emilion. You don't have to necessarily cellar them for 10 years before you crack open the bottle. In terms of the terroir, typically the estates here are much smaller, usually about 10 hectares or less, and the total production is typically around 2,000 to 3,000 cases, so much smaller than the Medoc as well. Saint-Emilion is also home to what they call the garage wine movement. What are these? Well, they're wines made in absolutely microscopic quantities, typically less than 500 cases. Heavily Merlot based, lavishly oaked, from minuscule yields. These wines typically sell for the most expensive prices of any wine in the entire region, and the allocation for an entire country might only be 6 bottles. The two most famous chateaux in the Saint-Emilion appellation are Cheval Blanc and Chateau Ozone. Ozone is located just on the outskirts of the medieval town of Saint-Emilion itself, down a back road, very hard to find. And you see here these beautiful limestone soils which add a certain complexity and finesse to these great wines. No great wine region is complete without some first-class restaurants, and here behind me you have one of the finest in all of France called Hostellerie de Plaisance. It's a 2-star Michelin, and Philippe Echebest, one of the top chefs in France, creates works of art on the plate, particularly during his 9-course tasting menu.
So if you want an experience you'll never forget, then you have to visit the medieval village of Saint-Emilion. You can spend the day wandering through the cobblestone streets, stocking up on your favorite labels at one of the many wine boutiques, and then enjoying a relaxing, wine-soaked lunch at one of the family-owned restaurants. Coming here is like traveling back in time, except now you're surrounded by the best food and wine in the world.